Well, I've put it off long enough, but today is the day that we're finally going to do Mournings End Part 2, and I really can't begin to tell you just with how much I'm looking forward to doing that. Right then, Muppet, let's get this train wreck of a quest started. It turns out that I need to speak to an elf over here first, which apparently I should have done just after Mournings End Part 1. But you know, dialogue and NPCs and blah 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 blah. But now this Muppet will let us start the quest. So basically, he's asked me to come investigate some disappearances of his digging crew somewhere in these dangerous tunnels down here, and I should probably be asking these chaps here for any information that they might know, but instead we're just going to very quickly run past the dark beasts and make our way down towards the Temple of Light, of which we are instantly greeted by a shadow, which was very difficult to take out. But I think we found our missing slaves, or they could just be very lazy and having a nap right now. But we'll come around and search them all just to see if they have any goodies on them. Dead bodies usually do have stuff like that. And we're going to be greeted by a couple of shadows as we go along this temple here, which really aren't going to be that tough. But on this corpse here, we find a colour wheel and a journal, of which by now we know that I definitely can't read, so let's head back to the handsome elf and see what he has to say about it. Well, just before we do, we're actually going to enter the Temple of Light and come up these stairs and very quickly traverse through what is one of the most irritating puzzles in this game until we reach this black ominous crystal, which we will search, and we find some blackened crystal shards, which we will just chisel off a piece, so we end up with this blackened crystal. Which I have no idea why we need that yet, but I'm definitely following the wiki for this quest, so let's go back to the handsome elf now. Right, you, dialogue me, and this is why we need the blackened crystal, so how lucky for you that we already have one. And for whatever reason, he has now summoned the beatboxing elf to come speak to us. She's the one who actually wants a blackened crystal, and after some beatboxing magic, she gives me back a newly formed crystal. Which I have no idea why she's done that, so pretty elf, why did she do that actually? This quest is beginning to sound hard. It's not the only hard thing around here now. So we need to take our new crystal to an altar at the back of the Temple of Light just to power it up. But of course, it's not just as simple as heading through the barrier to go to the altar. This is where the infamous light puzzle then comes into play. So let's get to it then and start this light nonsense puzzle by first pulling this lever here for some crystals, of which we are going to need to take all of the items from it. And our first steps are to pass this blue coloured door just across the way by having the light bounce from pillar to pillar all the way around to it. So we'll use some hand mirrors then just to reflect the light, preferably in the right direction. Oh well, at least we now have a nice interface for this, but we want this facing north, just like that. And basically we're just trying to chase the light all the way down towards this blue room. And although we now have the light heading towards the blue door, it's not going to open because the light isn't blue. But this is where our little yellow crystal comes into play, because for some reason yellow is the opposite of blue. So if we put the yellow crystal into this pillar there, it turns the light yellow, which means that we can pass through this blue door. Following so far? Well, if you're not, then don't worry, because nor am I. But we now need to shimmy our way over with this wall support just to the opposite side, and this is another infamous bit because you're always likely to fail like that. I don't know if the greater sure-footed aura will work here, which prevents you from failing obstacles if you're on an agility course, which this isn't technically, but we'll activate it anyway and just see if it is going to work or not, which the answer might be maybe, unless that was just a complete fluke. But we're on the opposite side now, so we can now pass this door. While in this room we have a closed chest, which we will search, and we get some mirrors and a cyan crystal. The magenta light door is the next one on the list to open, so we once again need to come back to this lever and collect everything from it again, just to reset the puzzle and start it all over again, just trying to get the light up towards the magenta door. And again, through some coloured nonsense, we can't actually make magenta, we need to mix the yellow crystal and a cyan crystal at some point, which makes this kind of greeny light, which apparently is the complement of magenta, but whatever, we can now pass through this door. And again, we have another chest to search, and inside it, we get another 2 mirrors. There's a cyan door to open next, somewhere in this maze, but it's the same process as before. Reset, collect, and put it back in again. The only difference this time is that we need this pillar of light to actually shine downwards, which after putting a mirror into the pillar does seem to have done the trick, so we now have light coming down the bottom here. Now just to chase it away to the cyan door, but of course because this needs to be as tedious as possible, we now need the light going back upstairs, which that should do the trick. We pop our yellow crystal into this pillar and then head further upstairs to where the light will now appear from this pillar, which we get it shooting west, and it goes into this pillar here where it turns red. And after chasing the red light for a little bit, we come to this dead end room here where we need to use a rope on this rock, just so then we can climb down. And the light is over here onto this door, which is the cyan door. We've done it. Hooray! So we can pass through the cyan door now, and we can open a chest to get probably even more mirrors. Nope. We got a blue crystal that time. I am really enjoying this quest. While I'm not going to show too much more of this light puzzle, just be assured that we do have a lot more rooms to open and a lot more light puzzling to do. And that this place can really do a number on your sanity. Because 1 minute you're still doing this light puzzle, and the next you're in Burthorpe killing rabbits. It's a very strange place, this. You know, that really didn't take as long as I thought it was going to. Digging up one artifact for archaeology, that takes a hell of a long time. This light puzzle? Not as long. But I believe that we now have all of the light sources facing the black door at the back, just apart from this red one here, which after we rotate the mirror a little bit, if we're allowed to of course, that red beam then joins the other ones, which should unlock this light door at the back, letting us pass through it. Which we're getting a nice cutscene for, and we find a dwarf. But we have the ruins of the death altar here, which we need to put the crystal on inside it, but of course we don't have a death talisman yet to enter it. That's where the dwarf then comes into play. He does have a death talisman for us, but in order to get it, he needs all of these items that you can see here. So that is a hell of a shopping list that we're now going to need to get him. So I suppose we better get started. But just before we do, we are once again leaving through here, and we're going to turn this pillar of light just so that it faces back towards the cyan door, and that way we'll be able to return back here to the death altar without having to go through the underground pass. An archery ticket is first on the list, so we're here at the ranging guild just to head upstairs to murder some archers. And of course it turns out that wasn't what you were supposed to do. Instead, we're supposed to fire at these targets here and we get some form of score. And at the end of all of that fun, we got a score of 560, which gives us 56 archery tickets. A battered book is next, which we can get from this bookshelf. We need to get a dusty key next, which we get down here in Taverley Dungeons, specifically from this beard here. And don't worry, I'm not going to go down the list of all 50 items, just the ones that I deem a bit more interesting to get, and I am using the word interesting rather loosely, although I do very quickly need to visit the gnomes, just to murder one of these magnificent tortoises. Well, maybe a few of them. Just to get some of their sweet tortoise shells, which we'll turn immediately into some more tortoise pouches, just so that then I have a beast of burden to carry some of this crap for me. A potato cactus might be a bit tricky to get, although I'm not sure how aggressive these kill fights are now that I'm higher level. Well, the fact that the workers are hitting me means they're probably quite aggressive actually. But we have our potato cactus in this room here, and you know what, these actually aren't all that strong. But let's continue. And there's one of my port voyages come in, which we have a successful mission from, and we get some slate. Yep, that's right, we've now managed to pass the skill region, we are now in the hook region, and we are making our way towards the scythe region. So we are now starting to get some slate, which means we'll be able to further upgrade our player own ports. But straight back to collecting this stuff then. Baby dragon bones are next, followed by a skull, which means we will need to very briefly enter the wilderness, just to pick them up from here. And unfortunately, that's myself and my pack yak now full of stuff, but we still do have just a few more items to go at the bottom here, so this will mean a second trip. And if I said pack yak, what I actually meant is piss poor tortoise familiar. But here's the first of your stuff, you greedy little And finally, here's the last of it. So for giving him all of those items, we are finally rewarded with a death talisman. Which honestly, I'm not really sure if that was worth it or not. But we can now enter the death altar and make our way over to the actual altar. Hey, wait a minute, how the hell did you get in here? Oh, bloody wizards. Anyway, we use a newly made crystal on the death altar and it starts to glow with a strange light. And then nothing else happens? Okay, well I am assuming whatever was supposed to happen has happened, so we now need to return back through the Temple of Light, right back to that black crystal at the very beginning. And we'll use the crystal again on the black crystal, which seems to have turned it white. Alright then, well, I think our work is done here, so let's return back to the pretty elf. Right you, I've done a thing, so reward me. Which he has done, so that is the very tedious Mournings End Part 2 now complete. We got 20,000 agility experience, as well as a crystal trinket allowing me to access the Temple of Light, and we now also have access to the Death Altar. But probably the most important thing out of all of that is that we are now over 150 quest points, which means we can return back to May. But very quickly, just before we do speak to May, I'm going to use our Death Talisman on our Wicked Hood. Delicious. So the Death Talisman has now disappeared into the hood, which means I can now easily teleport to the Death Rune with the Wicked Hood. So that's going to save a lot of time going through that temple again. Anyway May, I'm here for a big reward, so get to it. I can now actually unlock all of the Trials armor, including the Vanquish weapon, which is a weapon that's going to increase damage dealt to quest bosses by 5% every time I die, so I don't know how helpful that's going to be for me. But we'll unlock it anyway. And I also want my tier 2 magical dice, so give me that. Well, here's the armor of Trials on, and as much as I would like to wield the Vanquish weapon, I will require level 75 attack to do so, although I believe I can change it over to a magic weapon and even a ranged weapon. So I think we'll go for the magic variant of it instead. And I believe that this armor set has now changed itself to level 75 to suit my stats, so I think I now have best in slot armor that I can possibly wear here, so that's pretty nice. And what would be even nicer is if we were to get quite a decent reward from our magical dice, which we got 500k and a green dragonhide body G. So not really. But that is our Mournings End Part 2 quest now complete, so we only have one more requirement before the Plague's End quest, which is Within the Light. And the Within the Light quest only requires 75 ranged alongside 70 fletching, which we are definitely on track to be getting. And after the Within the Light quest, all we really have left is 75 crafting to go, and that's everything that we will then require for Plague's End. Damn, we have certainly made some progress. Prif, here we come. But that's enough from me for today, so as always, thank you very much for watching this episode of Hardcore Idiot, and if you have enjoyed it, then why not give the video a like, and subscribe to the channel as well, just to keep up to date with us here. But thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye for now everyone. Bye bye.